All right, here we go. All right, let's get it started, shall we? Shalom and welcome. Today we're going to go over in the finale of the Urim and Thummim. These are the rocks, if you will, that Yahweh told them to put in the breastplate, behind the breastplate, in the pocket of the priest, right? So what we went over, we're going to recap and then finish it. We went over, we cannot pick up sticks. We cannot do any other divination, any other form. The thing about it is, if I say you can only eat ice cubes in my house, then anything other than that would be forbidden, right? Now that may sound absurd, but we're just making an example. Anything other than being caught Cheetos in the house would be against the house rules. No matter how, what we like, what we think, how it goes, right? The thing with Yahweh, when Yahweh says, this is my only authorized teaching, moving, whatever, then that's what it is. And in this case, he chose to use a black and white rock. Why? Because probably we're so simple that we need to have simple things. So many times I see people fighting and arguing over some of the most ridiculous things. This one knows Hebrew, that one knows Greek, this one knows this, but yet they don't want to go to what Yahweh gave us for these answers. He gave us these to do what? Not to juggle, not to play with, to say, is this a yes or is this a no? Which one is it? And why? Because the same thing as then as we have today. We have men thinking this overrules the Bible or their way of thinking. He tells us clearly, does he not? My way of thinking is not your way of thinking. This is why we have these. My way of thinking is not yours. Your thoughts are not my thoughts. Most men will not even adhere to that. Well, I say this and you say this and this and on it goes. But scripture makes it very clear of how to use these, what we're to do with these, and we can look through scriptures, we can look through Dead Sea Scrolls, as we did last week. These are more than just two rocks. These are the things that Yahweh has appointed and anointed to tell us yea or nay, and yes or no, right? That's what he says. Now, from there, we have also learned that there is a tongues of fire to the holder of these. So it doesn't matter. Now, I know people are going to go out and try to pick up rocks and think that they have something. You have to be anointed and appointed first. And that's what we're missing. That's the whole missing project with the Ruach, the Bible, with everything across the board. People don't know what they're talking about. They think they do. They want to know about it, but most of it is not because of the kingdom. It's not because Yahweh said so. It's not because their Bible tells them so. It's not because you can look it up in the Dead Sea Scrolls and find it for yourself. People say absurd things like, that's not in there. Obviously, you've never read this. Obviously, you've never looked through it. And even when you put things in it and take pictures of it, then people want to deny these things. Now, the enemy in the world is going to deny the truth. They're going to twist the truth. They're going to tell you whatever is whatever. And the enemy wants you far, far away from these things. Why? Because if you get the truth, what are you going to do with it? Now you have power. Now you have the knowledge. Now you know the right from wrong. Now you know this is too far and this is too far. If I go past them, it's too much. And Yahweh, the Creator, will not accept that. Not from you, not from me, not from anyone. Oh, you know, Jesus came and no. He did not come and say, and break this law and do this law and do that law and do this. He never said that. Yeshua came and said, think not that I come to destroy the law and the prophets. Do you realize if he destroyed the law, then the prophets and the prophecies are done too? Realize that there is no revelations according to, it can't be, because revelation is from a whom? A prophet, right? Isn't it from a prophet? Is it from Yochanan? Isn't it from John? Isn't it written? Yes, revelation of to, but who wrote it? Who penned it? And who put it forth? Because that's still a prophecy, right? Even though the Messiah is in there, even though we have all this, but Isaiah, Jeremiah, all these are prophecies. And to take those prophecies out is to nullify most scriptures that are still to come. All the prophecies that are still to come, which also nullifies any hint of a rapture, any hint of him coming back. You have to get rid of that. You have to. See, we can't pick up a book and say, I only believe this, or I only believe this, or I only believe the last part. And that's what most people want you to believe. Well, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and, you know, Revelations happened yesterday, and the fifth seal was opened, and all this. Really? I'm still mowing my grass. I don't know about you. Maybe your grass is not there. Maybe you must have lived in the desert or something. But you see, when the prophecies are fulfilled, it has to fulfill the prophecy. When Yeshua came and said, behold, the Spirit of Yahweh is upon me. He has anointed me to preach. He has anointed me to teach. He has sent me to set the captives free, to heal the brokenhearted. And then he said, this is fulfilled in your ears. What is he saying? He is the anointed one. He is the sent one. That's what he's saying. He didn't say the whole book was fulfilled, because then 1,000 years of peace should have started then, and it should have been more of what the Pharisees thought. People got more of these thoughts in their head than they think. They want to talk about them. And why? Why would we want to degrade? Degrading does not win you the war, right? Well, the Pharisees and well this and well that. And does that make you feel better? The Pharisees was obviously not what they should have been. But it might behoove you to learn what the Pharisees were, because they read the Sabbath. They read the word on the Sabbath. They kept the Sabbath. They kept clean and unclean. They obviously kept probably more than what most people do across this earth. And Yeshua said, if you want to follow him and say you're part of the way or the Hebrew roots or whatever you call yourself, if you're part of any of that, Yeshua said, if your righteousness does not surpass their righteousness, you shall not enter the kingdom. I would be more on, instead of beating the Pharisees up, what did the Pharisees do? They kept the Sabbath. They kept the clean laws. Obviously, they kept the linen laws of cotton or wool. They kept many, many, many commandments. So what was so wrong with the Pharisees anyway? The Pharisees added to. The Pharisees said, okay, wash your hands. But yet we've all seen what happened in the last couple of years. There's commercials on it. Still, wash your hands. And what did the whole world do? What do you still see on a lot of counters? Alcohol, washing hands. The same things that they did back then, we lost our minds on, or some did. What's that got to do with this? Everything. The scriptures are about perfection, and it's about you meeting perfection. Yahweh didn't say it's okay to be. A lot of this, what we have a problem with, honestly, is people think they can live their life the way they want to live their life. And they think they can pick up any book, any scripture, any verse, and throw that in and be saved by it. And that's why the world's such a mess, because they don't live by Torah. They don't keep the Sabbath. Could you imagine if everything shut down in the United States on Friday night until tonight, till Saturday night? What a world it would be. What a blessing it would be. I don't think we could probably comprehend of what all would happen if we did what we're supposed to do. What an amazing world we would live in just by keeping the Sabbath. Because what else would you do? If everything got shut off and there was only praise and worship, teachings, true worshipers, true teachings, true Sabbath keepers, wow. Only thing you could turn on your TV would be something on that lines, not murder, death, kills, and rapes and all this nonsense. This is what this is about. This is why he made these. Because all of these distractions and rabbit trails and whatever you want to call them, this is what Yahweh made to stop them. But yet today, who's here? Do we have 20 people? Do we have 1,000 people? Do we have 5 congregations? This should be on national TV, on CNN, Fox News. This should be across the board a national United States emergency. Yahweh has spoken, and what do you want to know? What is the yes or the no? What should we do? Should we keep the Sabbath? Yes, we should. Should we do what Yahweh says to do? Yes, we should. Is his laws done away with? Is his law, is his Torah done? These are questions we don't need these for. This is no, and this is yes. Because we can read our Bible and we can comprehend and we can understand this. So these we don't even need to this point, because everything I just asked you, we know the scriptures say. We know Yeshua said, if you love me, keep my commandments. So what should we use these for? I would present, and I have presented, the calendar. And we were supposed to, at the ending of this, put calendars to the test. The Zodiac calendar, the full moon calendar, the half moon calendar, the crescent moon calendar, Islamic calendar. I could care less what calendar or how many we have to cast lots about. It doesn't matter to me, because I want to be right and I want to be righteous and I want to know. But just like we seen with the woman who was caught, supposedly, there's nobody with their calendars. Just as I thought would happen. There's nobody with their calendars to cast lots on their calendars. So without 2 or 3 witnesses, what's the point? What would we do it for? Because obviously anybody that we cast lots upon their calendars, would obviously not agree or not. What? They wouldn't accept it, right? So the problem is, many times, many people use too much of this and not enough of what we were told to use. Not enough of the ruach that he puts upon us. And I would submit that a lot of these people, the way they call it the Holy Ghost, or they call it the Holy Spirit, or they deviate from the truth. Because if you come and tell me or ask me if you got it, why would you ask me if you got it? Who am I? How? I mean, I think with some time and understanding and being around, we pretty much know a demon from a believer. But sometimes them demons are pretty pesky little folks. Sometimes them familiar spirits are familiar spirits. Sometimes you don't know, like Yonah. They don't know who caused the problem. Somebody on the boat done something, and we're about to drown. So let's please, pray tell, find out who it is, because we don't all want to perish for one man's sins. But in today's world, it's like everybody wants to run to the sinner, and the sinner comes up with some crazy congabalcal teaching, or no teaching at all, and they have masses, right? We have masses of people. Joel Osteen has masses of people, John Hagee, but yet they both have publicly, look it up, come and said, what? The Sabbath day and everything that they do on Sunday is pagan to the core. Pagan to the core. Christmas, Valentine's Day, all these are pagan. Look it up. It's on YouTube. Used to be. How can you get up in front of your congregation and then go celebrate Ishtar? How can you go and do these things and smile at your people? You're going to be judged for these things. You're going to be condemned for those things. Oh, well, you're judging, judge rightness. I can judge all day long as it's righteous, and as long as Yahweh says so, and as long as he's anointed and appointed. All day long. Yes and no, yes and no. That's what Moshe did. That's obviously what the high priest did. Hey, we don't know. Well, guess what? I got the answer. And you say that today, and people are like, Does he have the answer? Are we following Yahweh or are we following man? That's the problem. And most people don't want to step behind a man and let a man lead them. The only time they ever want that is in war, in chaos, if a bank's being robbed. Oh, now you're the man. Stand in front of me. I'm a woman. Women and children out first. Wait a minute. What? No. No. Not when it's for your own good. Not when it's only to save you. Across the board, we either keep the standards of righteousness or we throw them out. Either you're going to have to listen to what so saith Yahweh, or you're not. Right? The problem becomes is we have come to such a horrible nation and a horrible, despicable, ungodly people. I don't see how some of these people can get up there and even show their face. You should have a veil over your face. You should have something over your mouth. Get up there and talk about LGBTs and this and that. And I'm not trying to beat anybody up. It's about love. And that's not love to make somebody do something or to give your child, that's a child, the decision of whether they're a boy or a girl. Because it's not your decision. Look down and what you got proves whether you're a boy or a girl. Like it or not, that's what you are. To do anything different than that, well, what are we going to do? Can they eat decon now too? I'm 5 and I feel like a decon supper. How about some decon jello? We wouldn't do that. I sure hope you wouldn't let that happen in your household. But for some crazy, idiotic reason, oh, well, little Bobby thinks he's Sarah and little Sarah thinks she's Bobby. The same things the scriptures say would happen is happening. the same things that we see. And as a nation that we say we're under God, people say, oh, well, I can say that proves to me it should be one nation under Yahweh. Because I would ask you, what God do you serve? What nation are we talking about that's one nation under what God then? Because I think we forgot of which God that we follow. I think so much churchianity has come and told us we can rip our jeans and look like a bunch of hoodlums that it's okay. Well, it's not okay. It's never been okay. But when you get away from Torah, when you get away from the law, when you accept whatever you want as your, and I understand, I get it. Everyone wants grandmama and baby boy and all that to be saved, but that's not your judgment. That's not even your duty. That's where we don't judge people of whether, well, Sarah died at 5. Where do you think she went? I have no idea. I'm not that judge. We are to judge righteously. I have no idea. Don't even ask me questions like that. How would I know? Go ask the Creator, pray. Why would you ask me something like that? Why would you ask something that's so detrimental? And why would you accept the answer from a mere man to begin with? Not on that. You want to accept the man that tells you, well, this is truth, and this is love, and this is compassion. Oh, baloney. That guy's, don't listen to that nonsense. Oh, my. But yet the same guy you go and whoo, he said we're all kings and priests, and we're all, well, then here, you tell me what's right and wrong, Mr. King, Mr. Priest. There's liars and false prophets out there, and they come up with all these nonsensical things to make you feel good. I'm a king and a priest. Well, where's your crown? Where's your kingdom? Of what kingdom do you rule under? Where's your peasants? See, it doesn't really work out mentally, does it? It sounds great, just like a lot of these other teachings and things. It sounds great and awesome, but in all reality, just don't add up. I'm sorry, Mr. Whatever, but that dog don't hunt, does he? Because if you're the true king and priest, you should all be wearing epods. You should all have a set of these. You should all be going and teaching and helping and healing the world. But that's not happening, is it? So, to go on, to finish, in the Hebrew Bible, the Urim, lights, and the Thummim, Hebrew, Thummim, meaning uncertain possible perfections. It means we know almost everything. And I say almost because there's some judgments, there's some things that are just, we're learning, right? That's why I say that. But biblically, especially if you're appointed, you're anointed, you're a part of the kingdom, and you're a teacher of the kingdom, he says he will do nothing. Read your Bible. He will do nothing before he reveals it to his prophets. Do you understand what that means? Yahweh will do nothing without revealing it to his prophets. So that means revelation can't have happened because all these false prophets, Jonathan Cain, and all these nonsensical people that people continue to listen to, and they write books. Why? I don't understand personally. If somebody is a proven false prophet, why would you ever listen to a word they had to say on any biblical matter whatsoever? That is amazing to me, that they're still on TV. They're still on this. They're still on. I don't understand why. Everybody should have got rid of him in 2015. But yet he's still writing books and telling people on TV because he's false, because he's antichrist. Not but that's what he's a follower of. And people get upset and say things, but you know what? The truth's the truth. Let's go on. What we have to understand again is what Yahweh has set forth. This is perfectly legal with the Bible. This is perfectly, all legalists, this is a perfect part of what the Bible says to have. and what he says to use. But again, it has to be in the right hands. It has to be someone with a ruach, somebody appointed, somebody that knows what they're doing, because anybody else is just playing a game, basically. The Urim and the Thummim were a means of revelation entrusted to the high priest. So we have to understand, and Exodus 28:30, Leviticus 8:8. We have to understand of what is being said, what's going on, and what we're looking ourselves into. Because if we're not very careful, what we're just going to do is find a lot of problems, right? We're going to find ourselves in many problems, and that's what we've already found ourselves in, right? We've already got ourselves into so many problems that how can we get ourselves out? I would suggest right here, right here, we can use something for these things. But amazingly, how many people has ever even heard of these? How many people want to hear about this? How many people even want to know about these things? Most people run screaming and kicking, if you will, right? Most people don't want to know what this says, what it means. Now we see here the Aleph and the Tav, right? He says, I am the Aleph, I am the Tav, I am the beginning, I am the ending. The Aleph, the ox, the Tav, a mark. Really, really simple things. The problem is, do we want to do biblical things the way that Yahweh says? Most people are too worried about their Hebrew, their this, their Greek, their this, and all that, which, if that's your thing, so be it. But the problem is, when we come to a thing and there's a discrepancy, when we come to whatever it may be, right? The calendar. How come we ain't used these? How come we haven't submit ourselves? Because that's what you're really doing. This ain't, I'm smart enough to use this, or this ain't got nothing to do with that. This has everything to do with Yahweh. What does Yahweh say? And that's the problem we run into day after day, night after night, time after time. Men want to hear what men want to hear. Women want to hear what they want to hear. And I'll tell you what it is. You're saved and it's okay. And you ain't got to do nothing. And Jesus hung on the tree and everything's okay. And yippee-yi-yay, let's go have chicken dinner. That's what people want to hear. I want to put bacon bits in my salad. I want to do this. I want to do that. They want to do whatever they want to do. But when you put up the Torah, now we have guidelines that Yahweh says, I change not. Is that questionable? Is it? Is that questionable? I am Yahweh, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. He can't change, because if he changes, then there's respect of person. Moses is either better or worse than we are. He has to be, folks. If Moses couldn't eat pork, but you can, we got a problem. Don't we? Moses, the man that took the commandments, you don't think that's a fair judgment? Moses that gave up his life, basically, for the children of Israel? Moshe that gave up all of Egypt and forsake that kingdom and that lifestyle to go and serve Yahweh, the Most High, and do what Yahweh said of him? But for him and everybody who came out had a different law than everybody today. Is that even, if you think about that, unless something's wrong with your mental, is that even questionable? Is it? Can it be? Can we really say all those people that came out of Egypt got the commandments, but then a couple thousand later, the Messiah comes and says, oh, everything I told Moshe, forget that. What? Is that not a changing? Of course that's changing. That's absurd. For everybody, what about the man that got stoned? What about him? Yahweh himself said, take him out of the camp and stone him. But people say, oh, well, you keep the Sabbath or you don't keep the Sabbath, you do this, you do this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Somebody better dig that guy up and tell him it doesn't matter. Or maybe they shouldn't. Maybe we should understand when Yahweh says something, it's forever. He's not like us. I don't know how many people say, well, I changed my mind. What do you mean? Well, I just changed my mind. Well, you can't make a vow and change your mind. If you say you're going to be here because you got your feelings hurt, because you didn't like the weather, because of whatever, that doesn't give you a right to make your vow. Right? Does it or don't it? Well, we're all going to go to the zoo on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. And all the kids, and we all plan it out, and we're all going to go. And then at 1:30, I just changed my mind. Are you sick? You got to, no, just change my mind. Me and the whole group just, no, then you're a liar and a vow breaker. Honestly, I mean, I know people don't like to hear this, but what kind of a world do we live in that people don't want to hear truth? That's the problem we have going back to Moshe. Moshe got, and this is the tongues of fire. These are associated with the Dead Sea Scrolls as the tongues of fire, not the day of Pentecost, where that was the only church born. Look up your church. Pentecostals say they're Pentecost. We talked to some the other day. And I'm not trying to dog anybody. I'm just trying to bring the light of truth to you. Because I used to be Pentecost, and I used to proclaim, I'm Pentecostal. Because I thought Pentecostals was from the day of Pentecost, from the big, right? That's where the church started. That's where it began. That's where it all came from. Until I studied and looked it up and found out Pentecostal religion itself was in 1906, 1902, 1908, somewhere in there they started. Almost 2,000 years later, they come up with this religion, but yet they lie to me and tell me they was born on the day of Pentecost, which I'm telling you, this is the original day of Pentecost. This is the original day of tongues of fire. This is more than a yes and a no. This is Yahweh speaking through a man and telling them what he wants them to do. Take the Urim and Thummim and explain to them. Whatever language, doesn't matter. Whatever language. See, we get stuck in, I'm the professor of Greek. I'm the professor of Hebrew. I'm the professor of Aramaic. I'm the professor of... It doesn't matter, folks. Yahweh is the great physician. Yahweh is the one who created all these languages. But we like to hide behind that and say, yes, that's true. And that's why I'm an American. And that's why I say what I say and I do what I do and da-da-da-da-da, right? No. That's not a go-between and get around. That's something that we understand. Because a lot of people come and say, well, that's why I can say Jesus, and that's why I was baptized in Jesus' name. That's why I believe and I was saved and all this stuff. But if we really come and put our thinking cap on, if you will, and we really go to what Yahweh has said and what he has set forth, the answers are still here. They're still here, folks. We can still have them. Both Hebrew words, Urim means lights, and symbolize Yahweh's presence. Thummim means perfection. The tradition holds that there was a pocket in the linen breastplate worn by the high priest that held the Urim and the Thummim. Now, all that being said, this is the answer from Yahweh. This is what Yahweh has set forth. This is what Yahweh said to use. This is what Yahweh said is how he will answer us. He shall stand before Eleazar, the priest, who shall inquire before Yahweh for him by the judgment of the Urim, and at his word they shall go out, and at his word they shall come in. And all the children of Israel with him, all the congregation. 1 Samuel 28:6. And when Saul inquired of Yahweh, Yahweh did not answer him, either by dreams or by the Urim or by the prophets. Is there a change? Is there a change because we're in 2023? Can we not listen to the prophets? Can we not still listen to the days of old? Can we still not go to what Yahweh has set forth? Of course we can. The problem is, most of your dreamers, I would say, or most of your people, false prophets, we'll just say what it is. Most of the false prophets don't want to get anywhere close to these. Because why? It's going to shine the light on them. It's going to shine the light, and it's going to prove once and for all who's true and who's not. That's why you don't see a whole lot of teaching. That's why you don't see a whole lot of people saying, let's cast lots, let's do this. Because they don't, oh, well, whatever. Let's just do what I want to do, and that's okay. But when we really see what Yahweh has set forth, it's amazing. It's so amazing that all we have to do is believe and do what he says. And we have it right here. I mean, it's right there. Plain sight, plain view, right? He then placed the breastplate on him, and in the breastplate he put the Urim and the Thummim, right there. These are not questionable things. These are not an argument. These are not something that we can say we believe in it or we don't. Everything in scriptures has a point of no return, if you will. It's a point of, now you know it, what you're going to do about it. Everything, whether we believe it or not, whether we want to eat it or not, whether we want to do this or not. In the beginning, what did we have? Food. What was our food? Herbs, trees, fruits, vegetables, all these things. Not chicken, not dumplings, not chicken noodle soup. Any of that was forbidden. But today, people want to do what they want to do because they're going to do what they're going to do. With all that being said, these are more breastplates. I know man has turned a lot of this into diamonds and gold and jewelry, and that's why we think we have to have all these things. But a lot of these are rocks, what Yahweh created. This is what he made. Sometimes we make it too hard. We make it too, well, I can't even get the breastplate. Or I can't even do this. I can't afford diamonds. I can't afford that. I can't afford this. First of all, you have to know what it is before you go doing things, right? Stones from the Hebrew Bible. Notice it says Hebrew Bible. I love Hebrew. I love Paleo Hebrew. I love that it tells me exactly what to do. Because that's what we need. We just need the truth. We don't need somebody to tell us and somebody to do this. And well, we do sometimes, right? I mean, there is prophets, and there's always going to be prophets. There's always going to be a remnant. So there is going to be people to tell us what to do. But the problem is, we don't want to do what those people tell us what to do. Truly, you're denying Yahweh and his word. What it boils down to, when Yahweh has all these in motion, is there any way that we can say, well, I don't know this, or I don't know what's right, or I don't know who to follow, or I don't know how to follow, or any of those things really, really, really on the judgment seat? Can we really go to court and say, I just didn't know who to follow? Well, I sent you this prophet, and I sent you this prophet, and I sent you my Urim and Thummim, and I sent you this prophet, and I sent you this. Oh, yeah, but I thought they was all this false. I thought them people was all just title holders. I thought them people was all just, really? You think people just took their time and their life and devoted to me and to tell you? No, another easy way to tell a prophet, what's he doing? Has he got nothing better to do in his life than sit in his basement and make videos? or nothing better to do, that he's come to a point where he just is disgusted with life and that's all he does? He has nothing, so that's all he's going to do is sit in front of a camera? Or is he doing it instead of scuba diving, instead of selling, instead of going and doing, instead of sleeping, instead of taking a nap, instead of eating? Sacrificial. This is about sacrifice. If you ain't got that yet, you probably don't know what's happening, right? Because you ain't probably got the whole point. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardis, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, and the 10th chrysoprase, the 11th jacinth, and the 12th amethyst. New Jerusalem, folks. All these things that Yahweh has set forth, all these, it's really simple. It's so simple, I think a lot of people just don't even get into it. And most people are afraid, but here it is. This is my name forever, Yahweh. So if he didn't change his name, and he didn't change any of these other things, which he can't because it says forever here. And you see forever, that means the feast days, the Sabbath day, that all these things never, ever, 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 like ever change, for real. They never change. So when you see that, he really means it. Yahweh. It's real. People want to fight and argue and this and that, but these are facts. There's facts. We see it. We see it in spelling. We see it spelled out. We see it on rocks. We see it in Paleo Hebrew. We know we are smart enough to figure out Yud Hey Vav Hey. We're at least that smart, right? I mean, we can at least go to a scholar or look on a rock and say, yep, that's Yud Hey Vav Hey. Yep, that's what that is. That's not a V. It's not a this. It's not a Z. It's not Jesus. It's not any of that. It can't be, right? We can look at the rock for ourselves and we can tell clearly what that name is. Now, whether you choose to use it, whether you want to use something else, whether we want to change and make it all into our own doctrine, our own priesthood, whatever, is a different story, right? What we have to be careful is when we start getting into and away from Yahweh. When we start getting away from what he has said, when we start doing things that we think is okay, right? Belonging to Jazanetta, servant of the king, 1932 AD. We can look up amazingly almost everything on this planet today. The problem becomes, though, is someone can look this up and say, well, that says divination. That scares me, so I'm going to stay away from that. But we can clearly see if Yahweh put this into motion, then it's not witchcraft. It's Yahweh anointed, appointed. Now, if you're picking up sticks and playing with other things, obviously that's a different story, right? Yahweh reigneth, let the people tremble. He set it between the cherubims for the description of the throne in heaven. So it doesn't change, folks. It hasn't changed from the beginning. Only man has changed things. The law is still in effect. Yahweh still wants us to have our answers. The problem is most people are too afraid. And even with the answer, they're still too afraid to live it out, right? You have a wife and she's committed adultery 3 times. Well, it's probably time to say bye, 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 right? It's probably time to let her go and do whatever she does. Do we really need a prayer service? Do we really need to ask what he feels about that? Do we really, adultery is a death sentence. What does that pertain to this? Everything, because if we spiritually do it, if we physically do it, if we have crosses and we have idols and we even have the little baby Jesus and we play with all that kind of stuff, that's an idol. It's a denomination, whether we like it or not, whether we go put it out on December 25th on our lawn and justify what we do, it still doesn't make it right. So again, what we need to find is the truth. And these are for the answers of things that we just don't know, right? That we just couldn't figure out. But most things, if we really dig into it and we get 2 or 3, we can say, you know, in the 1611 Bible, there is no Jesus. We can say that in the Geneva Bible, in the Hebrew, I mean, you know, in Genesis is our answer. I have waited for your Yeshua, O Yahweh. Right there in Genesis solves our problem of whether we can call upon Jesus or where we can call upon this or what we can do. Most of our problems are solved right from the Bible. It's those problems of the priest bringing his wife because he doesn't know if she's committed adultery. Then we need the answers. Then we need to do the ritual, if you will. Then we need to understand, what do we do now? The problem is, for most people, they haven't a clue. They want to counsel her. Well, let's counsel you. Did you do it or not, dearie? Did you do it or not, my friend? Guard the month. The month is the month of the Father, the month of Abib, a month of Abib. Guard the month, guard the Sabbath. All these things, instead of us belly aching about them and crying over them and accepting them or not, we're supposed to be guarding them, guarding the days of Yahweh, guarding the ways of Yahweh, keeping them. Where's the watchman? We have watchmen on the wall and all this nonsense that, oh, the watchman, where are you, watchman? Where's the watchman that has these? Where's another who comes forth and says, so saith Yahweh? Don't play church. Don't play and get yourself into something that you are going to be judged by and say you're something that you're not. Because a lot of these people, they want to come out and say, oh, yeah, guess what? There was a fence that rattled in Nevada yesterday. Yeah, who cares? What's the point of that? There's a stick and a toothpick that fell off the table in Alaska. Ooh. And that pertains to what, whom, and why? What and why? The sacrifice, the Passover evening, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. A lot of these are written in stone, if you will, written on the Torah scrolls, written. We don't need to ask questions that's already been answered. We don't need to go back to 2nd grade and say, excuse me, Miss Escobar, what was 2 plus 2 again? You're 27 years old. Get out of my class. What's wrong with you? Have you lost your mind? Did you bang your head? But yet, for some reason, we want to hash out the same things. And you know why? Because we want it our way, don't we? Most people, the reason they want to go back to these things and rehash them is eventually they're going to hear somebody that says, you know what? You know who we have for that? We have Jesus. Jesus says it's. Did he really? Where? What verse did he say that that's okay? Where did he command that that was okay? Oh, nowhere? Okay, let's go forth. Then thou shalt roast and eat it in the place where Yahweh thy Elohim shall choose. Again, it doesn't say Jerusalem. It doesn't say you have to be in the city. It says where? Where Yahweh thy Elohim shall choose. Oh, brother, we got to have a place to do it. We got to have in Jerusalem. We got to have the temple. Nobody can keep the commandments. That's a lie, and you're a liar. Nobody can keep this commandment because it doesn't say you have to go to Jerusalem. It doesn't say you must go there. It doesn't say that you must do this. It says what it says. Don't add to or take away. You know you're in danger when you add to and take away from what Yahweh has said. He says clearly, thou shalt roast and eat it in the place where Yahweh has chose and where Yahweh places his name. Where's their commandment? Where did Yeshua come and say, oh, by the way, remember that commandment where I said, or Yahweh said to go and do this? Yeah, now I'm saying you're going to have to be in a temple that's going to be destroyed in, 30, 40 years from now. Would that be reasonable? A lot of times we need to go back to Spockville, folks. Is that logical? No, brother, that's illogical. It don't work. If we would just take our ways out and take what we want out. That's what's wrong with America. America wants to live like an adulterous whore and then be blessed. But he says that even your prayers are an abomination. Well, I pray to God and he's going to do, oh, really? Oh, how many people you hear that the world's going to be peachy and candy drops and it's going to rain gummy worms in the next few years? You hide and watch. Oh, it's going to rain something. But I don't think it's going to be gummy worms. And I don't think the mark of the beast is going to be a system you want to follow. I don't think you're going to want to take the mark of the beast in the system that's coming. So you believe all these false prophets you want to. But really what's going to happen is there's going to be a mark of the beast. And there's going to be an antichrist. And there's going to be many hard, terrible things happening. Because it's written that way. Plain and simple, right? Let's go on. 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day shall be a solemn assembly to Yahweh thy Elohim. Thou shalt do no work therein. I know this is about the Urim and Thummim, but these are all things that we need to know and we need to understand. We don't need to ask questions. It's already been answered. Well, let's cast lots on the Sabbath. Let's cast lots on when we can do Passover. Let's cast lots on the day. We just went over these. Why would we cast lots? Why would we pull on the seats of Yahweh Almighty when he's already said it's right here? Read it for yourself. Unless we are trying to do a divination, unless we're trying to change his mind, unless we're trying to be Balaam, or we're going to say, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to go and get on my donkey and do what I want to do. And you best be lucky the angel doesn't slay you along the ride and your way of doing it the way you want to do it. Shabbat begins at sunset on Friday and ends at sunset on Saturday evening. The table is set with 2 candles, which represent the 2 commandments. Remember and observe. It's a real simple thing, folks. It's real easy. We'll close with this. And the name of the city from that you come is Yahweh is there. Yahweh Shemal, right? Ezekiel 48:35. Are you seeking the city, the dwelling place of Yahweh? He clearly tells us where to find it. In Devarim 30:14-16, he dwells within his Kadosh, untamed pattern and words. The house built according to his instructions, also proclaimed by the Hamashiach Yeshua, and referred to it in Romans 10:8. Well, have you read Romans? Have you read Galatians? Yeah, I have. And I think you probably need to too, because I don't think you got what it said. Many times people tell us, somebody says, hey, that's black coffee. And you look at it and it's like, looks like hot water with tea to me. That's not black coffee. That's not even black. Yeah, it is black coffee. No, it looks like hot tea. But if we're not careful, we'll say, hey, that man said that's black coffee. We don't even look at it because we want it to be black coffee. You see what I'm saying? We don't want to look at the truth. We want to look at Galatians from I'm saved, grandmama's saved, granddad's saved. We're all going to heaven and let's shout and party. but it doesn't say these things. It says all that call upon the name of Yahweh. He gave us a splendid diagram in the wilderness and instructed it to be made exactly so. Do you think if Moses would have built the tabernacle, do you think if the people would have built it, do you think if anyone would have said, you know what, let's get some sticks and throw something up, and that's what we're going to do. That's what we do today, right? My body is the temple. I hear it all the time, everywhere you go. My body is the temple. I am the temple. I am the temple. Smoking, drinking, eating, garbage, abominations, all these things, and they proclaim they're the temple. I would ask you a question. How are you the temple if you're an abomination? Is the temple an abomination? Can you make the temple abominable? Well, obviously, if you bring in something that's an abomination, right? That's why he said, guard, keep it away, don't have it there, don't have it around my temple, don't have it. In most cases, some of this was 3 days' journey. 3 days' journey. That's why they came out and they said it was a 3-day journey before they did much of anything to get away from all that abominational chicken reveling garbage, right? They had to, because that's what's written. That's the way it was. So let's go on. He manifested in the flesh the pattern walked in and what he walked into to accomplish atonement for the transgression and to show us the way to walk and how to walk in the pattern of the reign of the Shelim. And he invited all who would come and dine, right? Come, behold, I stand at the door and knock, to follow him. Make no mistake, Yeshua did not come to abolish the law, to get rid of the prophets and say something different. Yeshua came for every one of us who's broken his law, but to redirect us to his law and to know there's ways established and ways Yahweh has set forth. If we don't know, we ask somebody, right? You ever heard that? You don't know, you better ask somebody. You better ask somebody. You better ask someone and get your right answers before you go to judgment. Because if you don't have the right answers, and I mean perfect answers, there ain't going to be no excuse. I don't believe there's no way you're going to stand before the Creator and say, oh, well, you know, Brother Greg's just an, oh, you know, oh, well, my YouTube buddy, he told me that all I had to do was sprinkle water on my forehead and wash my nose and use a nutty pot. What? Use a what? That's not immersion. What did Yeshua do? I don't know about you, but for me, I'm a follower of Yeshua. We all say we are, we claim to be. So I want to be immersed the way Yeshua was immersed. Fully immersed. Buried, the sin's gone, come up a new man. The same way Yochanan immersed Yeshua. He didn't throw water on him. Oh, suffer it not to be so. Oh, suffer it be so. Just immerse me. Oh, but who am I to immerse you? It doesn't matter. I got to do what's supposed to be done so I can show them in 2023, immersion is still immersion. It's not, there you go. Now, somebody out there will probably make that a new immersion, right? I spit on thy hand and slap you in the forehead. No, that's not acceptable. It sounds easy, sounds great, but it's not acceptable. So, if you have any questions or comments, I know this has been a long one, but to know the ways of Yahweh and to understand the ways of Yahweh and to understand that even if you don't know, Yahweh has the answer. Now, sometimes people say, I prayed and prayed and prayed, and I don't have the answer. Most people have the answer. They know whether their wife's cheating. They know what their husband's cheating. They know whether they should be with them. They know that they shouldn't be with them. You pretty much know, right? All counselings aside, if you know the person is just an unbelieving abomination and they're never, ever going to be anything other than an unbelieving abomination, you probably shouldn't be with them, because you can't mix the holy and the profane. You can't have somebody who's eating anything they want to and slopping it all over and barbecue sauce running all over them and saying, oh, we're going to a wedding. What did you just do? Nom, 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 nom. Like a little baby, right? What is wrong with you? We have to put everything in rightful order. Now, I'm not saying people can't come together and can't fix their marriages, but it has to be under Yahweh. If you want to follow Yahweh, you have to put him first. Have no other gods before me. That's wife, kids, idols, trinkets, microphones, whatever, right? My favorite pen, I'll never get rid of. If you ever say something ignorant, like, I will never, you might want to watch that. I will never stop eating. I will never. That might have just became your God. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, if you're going to say, I'm never, ever going to stop eating this. Because if Yahweh says not to do it, if he put it in your spirit, if he tells someone to tell you, what we have to understand is put everything in perspective. The man that came to Yeshua, did Yeshua say, oh, go home, you're saved? Did he say that? That's what the church is telling you, right? Churchianity, let me correct that. Churchianity is telling you that man is saved. He's got to be. But the scriptures say exactly contradict that very teaching that most churches tell you. He came to the Messiah, and the Messiah told him to go and sell all you have, come and follow me, and you will have treasures in heaven. So does he have, or did he have treasures in heaven? No, he don't. And no, he didn't. He turned away from the Messiah. Now, oh, well, we know it's never recorded he never came back, which tells me he didn't, which tells me he went on home and cried and boo-hooed and probably got an attitude, because the scriptures doesn't say he came back or he changed his mind or any of that. It says he went away sorrowful, right? So how does that teaching work in most churches? Well, he's done it all and you don't have to do a thing. That ain't what he told that man. That is not what he told that man. Is it? See the difference between truth and a made-up antichrist system? I'm just going to say what it is. They like there's 20,000 people here anyway, and if there was, I'd tell it even more. The antichrist system is all about Jesus done it all, and you just sit on your laptop and do nothing with the rest of your life. You're saved. It's okay. You can wallow in sin like a little pig muck. But Yeshua said, go and sell all you have. He never called that man a liar. He never said, oh, you kept the Torah, good boy. Man, you're right here. That's right, buddy. He said, go and sell all you have. He never called him a liar, which tells me you have to keep the Torah and you have to do what Yahweh says. And you have to do what the Messiah says. And the Messiah said, go and sell. And I'm not telling you go sell all you have. I'm saying there's more to it than, well, it's all said and done. We're just here. That ain't the way this works, folks. Really, it's never the way it worked since the fall of the garden. They enjoyed what they had, or they should have. But obviously they took it for granted, just like most other people take everything else for granted, right? So the whole point matter. Case in point is go with Yahweh. Learn the ways of Yahweh. Learn the difference between holy and unholy, set apart and the clean thing. Why would it say that if everybody can read it and know it? Teach them, it says. Teach them the difference between, if everybody knows it, which most people think they do, then why would it need a teacher? Why would that verse be there? Teach them between the holy and unholy. Teach them between the profane and the abomination. Teach them the difference, because this world don't know the difference. Most people are eating most junk that you wouldn't scrape out of your toilet. And that's a fact. Look it up. Here's a good one in closing. Most people's sinks are dirtier than a public restroom. Look it up. If you test it, and it's been tested, and there's been studies, most people's sinks, because they're chicken, pork, whatever meat that they put on there, there's more E. coli, boli, viruses, bacteria, garbage in their sink than in a public restroom. That's a fact. Look it up. That's disgusting, isn't it? And I don't think you'd eat out of a public toilet bowl. I don't think you'd pour your chicken noodle soup in there and eat out of it. But they're saying because of those things that are in those sinks are more disgusting, are more contaminated than most toilet bowls. Wow. That's amazing. So again, I hope this is edified. I hope it helps. Please understand these are the works and the will of Yahweh, but please understand they're nothing to play with. I don't recommend anybody get a hold of them and go juggling them and playing with them and thinking that they're something that they're not. This is for the anointed and the appointed of Yahweh to use, to have, and to use accordingly. And if he tells you not to mess with them or touch them, then just don't. It's that simple. But we need answers. We need truth. We need love. We need unity. We need to get past all this nonsense of this person thinks they are so smart and this person, because what really matters is the wisdom of Yahweh and the Ruach, and that surpasses it all. And I know that might sound contradicting, but for a person to have book smarts is one thing, and that's great, right? If you're going to a doctor that's all about toenails and he's been doing it and studying for 20 years, you're in the right place. But if you're using that same doctor to tell you biblical theories and biblical ways, and you're listening to what he says, it's not going to work out so good, right? The same thing for a lot of these preachers and so-called pastors and all these. I personally don't see how they could stand in front of people and lie to them and tell them and convince them to continue to come back. And sadly, most people that find this out and they come and tell their church that the Sabbath is Saturday and next Saturday we're going to have service at 10 a.m., they get voted out. What does that tell you about the congregation? Are they really saved? Are they really a follower? Are they really in the way? Are they really Hebrew roots? Are they? You answer it. So, until next time, may Yahweh bless you. May his countenance shine upon you. May he grant you shalom. If we have any questions or comments, or if you have any questions or comments, please let us know. We again are serving Yahweh. We want him and you to know each other, because the last thing we want to hear from anybody or see or even witness is the Matthew 7 effect. Many will say to me in that day, I prophesied in your name, I cast out demons in your name. All these things that they proclaim they did in his name. And he says, depart from me, I never knew you, worker of iniquity, worker of a lawlessness. Folks, Yahweh doesn't change. He does not accept you where you are. He might accept your repentance and your teshuvah, but he doesn't accept your lifestyle. He only accepts what he has set into motion. So until next time, Yahweh bless you. Shalom.